started for the afternoon.
Looking a little sparse in here. Yeah, raffle? We can do raffle. Oh. Where is she? Oh, they need tickets. They don't have tickets.
I don't have tickets.
Yeah. Man, the people want the raffle.
We'll do a raffle at our break here in just a little bit. Only those present now. Yeah, there's some folks that are.
Yeah.
You must be present.
Man, the raffle. Who knew?
Okay. Levi, is
haven't
that
won yet, huh?
presentation
Feels rigged.
in there for? Oh, there we go. That worked. All right. Now there we are. Wonderful. Well, Christine is keeping notes so that we can do that raffle later and who all was present to win. Yeah, Dana knows. Okay, Dan's going to kick us off as we dive in, talking a little bit more about some learning and leadership and things we started to kind of cover yesterday, but really inviting you all into where we are.
Hi, friends. Look at that. Good to be back together. Sorry, I'm still recovering from that lunch and getting to hear from Perry. That was just unbelievable. I need that like monthly. So, but we get to be back together. Yeah, as Jordan said, we really just, not a full update, but want to kind of show you some resources we're working with and some missional alignment things. And so that's, we'll kind of next 15 minutes and then answer any questions. But so this, if you have looked at the learning catalog, this should look familiar. So hopefully this isn't new to you, but it is in the learning catalog. It's also in the onboarding tool. And you've seen it some other places. There are other this is a missional tool, so there are other trainings that as you have done them, this is there. This is the mission learning and leadership leader model. And you'll continue to use this, so this is staying around, which is great. The mission's using it more, we will use it more. And a few things I just want to point out about it. One is, the main thing I would stress is really the center of it, which is the core of Young Life, which is transforming relationships. And this idea that really our life in Jesus is the most important thing. That transformation for people is the most important thing. How are we transforming in our relationship with Jesus? How is that changing us? And then how are we showing up with other people? So the transforming of God, self, and others is what I would highlight there as being really important and at the center of what we do. And that's why I love that it's at the center of this. And so, just how the other way that Tricia often says it is, that everything is rooted in our desire for staff to live a cruciform life, a life formed by Jesus, leading out of transforming relationships. And from that place, we want to cultivate an awareness of who God is, how God is forming me, and how that shapes my service to others. And so we are going through, we did this when we covered with the year-long intern training call. So we're using this in our trainings, and you'll continue to see it. But what else would you say, Jordan?
Yeah, the only thing that I would add on it really is that as we kind of look at this and these, kind of different components as we think about developing leaders across the mission, that these components of people development, comprehensive stewardship, courageous behaviors, all the ones you see up there, collaborative leadership, are all words that we probably could have gotten to yesterday in thinking about behaviors, really, and that they fall and align well into those ideas of the three healthies that we talked about, of operations, ministry, and people. And so ultimately, this isn't another group of things or words that we're adding, but ways that we're supporting and calling out how we're training our folks. And so that's where you see it in the learning catalog of this is an opportunity that is talking about comprehensive stewardship. And ultimately that goes into healthy operations as Levi and his team are going to offer some VENA training calls to department heads in the spring. Like ultimately all of those things connect in together. And so it falls into how we support healthy operations and also this piece of comprehensive stewardship. And so this is a great way we're connected to the greater mission and how we're supporting staff and just being able to call out some of those specific words. So that's what I would add on it.
That's great. We launched two different tools this late summer, early fall. The onboarding, camp staff onboarding tool. We sent out a recording for that kind of training call that we did if you weren't on it. So if you need to, I would watch that. Just a few quick things I would stress about it is, one, it's an expectation that as we are hiring new staff, we are using that tool and walking through that. It is not a optional resource, is that's what we are telling new staff. You will be walking through this onboarding tool with your supervisor. And so I think that I am saying it's a requirement.
Are you saying it's a requirement, Chad? I'm repeating what you just said.
And we are happy to continue to refine it and change it, and we understand every context is different, so it has a lot of flexibility. It's also very clear in there who the responsible party is for each task. And so I would say, where it says their supervisor, which I would say most of the tasks is their supervisor, if that is not you, I would think about how you are helping that supervisor have those conversations or following up to go, hey, how did that go? Do you need any help with that? Do you know how to do that? So just to have those conversations, I think is really helpful. But it is clear on kind of who's the main responsible party for each thing. So.
Yeah. And these QR codes just take you to those resources. Chad Martin will help you build a QR code. Next time I'll help you.
My mentor's Greg.
Wow.
I can help with the QR code. But the next one really is the learning catalog that we launched, and we talked about it yesterday, and a few other pieces we want to highlight in it is that ultimately the learning catalog is serving as a link between the supervisor and an employee in terms of their development. It is more than just, from camp staff to Dan and I. We are glad and happy and enjoy having that link to them, but it is also serving as a link between the employee and the supervisor, and that is where we're actually going to see training and change happen within our staff, is through that link. And so that is why we want you all to be familiar with what is in the learning catalog, not just so that you could take something and join us for an offering, but also so that your teams can lead in those conversations with staff. Some of the themes that you're going to see throughout those offerings in this fall, and even as we think towards the spring, is there is a thread of what we were saying is healthy supervision opportunities and training as we think about things like Together in Ministry, which is a Seminary Now course that we are offering to this group. As we are offering calls like Leading by Listening, these are all kind of this thread of healthy supervision. And then spiritual formation opportunities are also throughout there. That's something we heard from our staff. And so there are things in there like the Why the Gospel Seminary Now course, or the Digital Silent Retreat. And so that's when we wanted to put a quick plug in. And so Allison was going to just share quickly 30 seconds on what that is and her experience with it.
Sure. I stumbled into Digital Silent Retreats with the same organization that Deanne and Jordan are now offering in the catalog through a donor who was helping me find a solitude retreat, and I couldn't find the right thing, and he said, try this. And those of you that know my older daughter, this will be very funny. I was telling her about this, and she goes, so what are you guys going to do, get on Zoom and look at each other? It's a silent retreat. What is that? It's share with you to help you more deeply form. And there's help shoots and old people's and retirees. I mean, it's a really neat thing. And it just sounds weird and wonky in like a few more hours on Zoom. And it's way too awesome for that. I'm actually going this Saturday morning.
Thanks, Allison. And so we are partnering with this ministry and this organization to offer these. And so ours are specific for Young Life Camping. So like a set time, and the people that are leading and facilitating those are spiritual directors that from, across the country that are ultimately leading this and a part of this ministry. So ours will be just Young Life Camping. There are other ones like the one Allison is going to that are also available out there at different times that are broader than just Young Life Camping. But Kathleen and I got to be on one on Friday together, which was such a gift. And so really want to call those out, like they could be great for you. It can also be great if there's someone who is wondering, what does solitude look like, or wanting a little bit more of a prompt, or trying to get into a rhythm. It can be really helpful. So those are kind of the overall threads, though, that you see are the healthy supervision, spiritual formation, and all of them are, again, related back to thinking about our people and our operations and ministry and how we're training our staff.
Yeah. I think the Learning Catalog represents, it's a great tool, and we'll continue to get feedback and craft it and change it and all of those things. I think, like Jordan said, I think the impact for our department is far more in the conversation that happens, the development conversation that happens between a staff person and their supervisor, than if they take a class or not. Of course, we want them to continue to develop and do those things, but I think to think of it, we don't want staff thinking about this as, oh, this is just a catalog of things I can do or not do. That's great, but I think that conversation between a supervisor and a staff person about how am I developing? Where might I need to grow or want to grow? What am I passionate about? What opportunities are out there? And maybe there are things they want to do that aren't in the catalog. Great. That just sent them somewhere else. That's awesome. We can figure that out. But I think the way we're thinking about it in terms of development, and that's how I would encourage us as we kind of sent the tool with the report so that you could see signups. That's not meant to be a judgment. We're not looking for, it's not a race to see who can get the most. But it does help you inform, go, okay, where are we at? What kind of classes are my staff signing up for? And we will continue to try and get that catalog out earlier. But, just an example, there were camps that, we're able to go, okay, this is going to be a part of our evaluation process. So the action steps and the growth areas, we're going to we're going to have a conversation at that meeting about, hey, here's the catalog. What opportunities here might you want to do this next year? And sometimes the answer might be no. It might be, okay, this T2 thing's interesting, but this year that's not a good fit, so maybe it's in a year or 2 or 3. That's great. That's a development path, and I think that's exactly what our staff are asking for. So, yeah.
Yeah. The other piece that I would add is that we are trying to build a rhythm too of looping the supervisor in after that offering. So we had the time management and organization PACE call, and we followed up with the supervisors. So when they signed up, they said who their supervisor was. We emailed all those supervisors the post-call resources and what Katie kind of encouraged them as how to put some of those things into practice. So we looped in the supervisors, let them know what those follow-up resources were and how they could have a conversation with their staff about it. So again, we're trying to continue that loop, and so that it's not just happening out there somewhere on the side and they never get a chance to think about it in their day-to-day role and putting it into practice. So if you have more questions on those, we'll have some time at the end. As we think about kind of for this next year and some things that are on the horizon, we are having the in-person new staff training. And that is a large piece of what we heard from staff last year after new staff training and some other just different pieces as we think about how we can train our staff better. So we are looking forward to that and are excited for the different ways that that will help people engage more in their small group and place to be able to really process what they're learning. And they will have time in their departments while they are there. We will have a session that will be kind of split for new department heads that they will kind of do a little bit more on how to lead a team. And then other folks will have on leading volunteers and interns, and so really trying to think about how we can try and experiment with new different ways. So we are excited about that, but it is again going to continue for a 6-month period so that we have time to continue to put things into practice and not just I show up at Crooked Creek is where we are this year and then we're not talking about it later on. So excited about that piece of new staff training. Greater intern coordinator resources in the year-long intern task force. So we are really trying to support year-long intern coordinators. And all intern coordinators, but throughout this year and how we're supporting them. So we already had one call and Dan really, he mentioned it earlier, we talked about transforming relationships and the center of that wheel. This month we'll get to be with them and with Tom Combs, the Director of Theology for Young Life, and talking about we're going to be talking about the incarnational leadership with Tom Combs and what that looks like. And we're going to have some folks come and share about how do we support someone fundraising. And so we are trying to continue to support that group of individuals as they think about the discipleship and support of intern programs throughout the year. And then we will have something similar for summer intern coordinators as we get closer there. So the year-long intern task force is also being put together with folks from every division. Emily is joining us from Camping Services. And as we really think about more specific processes and supports for year-long interns. So there was a task force previously and back in, I think, 2019. And they really left some great work and recommendations and did a lot of learning. And we're going to pick back up some of that work and really begin to try and action off of the recommendations that they made as it relates to a consistent framework from all things like hiring for year-long interns up until how do we share content. And again, our goal is not to say this is 100% what you have to study, but how do we give you framework and resources, and how do we bridge greater collaboration across intern programs. So that is some of what we're looking at for the interns this year.
Yeah. 2 opportunities that are in there that align with our field friends and the rest of the mission that I want to highlight is, one, the Mosaic Conference is in the Learning Catalog. If you're not familiar with the Mosaic Conference, it's a Young Life event specifically for Focus Ministries. And so we have about 9 staff that we are going to take to that event. We're going to do a pre-call and a post-call. And so some of that is just partnering, an experiment to go, how do we partner with our field friends? How do we align missionally? And then some of that is a conversation around belonging in the camping department. And so we will do a training call before and after, and then obviously be together for that event. And that was an experiment to go, what are some other ways we can be shoulder to shoulder with our field staff friends and have a conversation about what this looks within our own department. So we're excited about that, and we'll see how it goes. Another one is the Statement of Faith training. So currently, all U.S. field staff have a learning module, online learning module that they go through that is a training for the Statement of Faith that we have. And so that training is more than just a piece of paper, or that document is more than just a piece of paper. The staff would have an understanding of what our Statement of Faith says and what it is. So we are doing some work to get that ready for camp staff. And so our new staff training folks will go through that first, and then we will launch it with all camp staff.
Yeah.
Oh, still me. Is it? Or is it
Yeah.
you? Great.
It's
For Impact. So in 2 weeks, we will be at Impact together. It's coming quick. Just so folks are aware, Chad will give an abridged version of the talk that you heard, we all got to hear yesterday. on topics of that he shared in finance and stats. We will also go through the leader model that we just looked at. And then we will talk about a tool called Coach Approach. This is a tool that US Field is using. It was created, kind of commissioned by Wiley Scott in a partnership with US Field and the Learning Leadership Department. And it is a coaching tool for a supervisor and a staff person, a one-on-one conversation to teach people how to coach, how to ask coaching questions, how to support someone who is trying to develop. And so Mike Kramer, who works in the Learning Leadership Office and was a big part of creating this tool, will be at Impact, and he will walk that crowd through a workshop of how to coach. And then we will give them this tool, which you can scan the QR code. It's an app or kind of an online site and it kind of has a 101, 201, 301, but particularly the 101, it's just really helpful. There are questions in there. There's kind of pro tips. As we think about all of our conversation yesterday, all of the one-on-ones, the supervisor, all the behaviors, I think to have resources that you and department heads can go, what are some coaching questions? What are some things I need to be aware of? How do I have resources to help me? The Coach Approach is one of those. This group will have a required call, camp manager call, that we will go through and do the training together this year. And so you'll hear more about that, but we will all get to go through that as well. But the department head group will do it first at Impact, and so you can follow up with them. In addition, Eric will be he'll have a workshop teaching about Working Genius at Impact. And I think what we're trying to do there is raise people's awareness levels of both their own awareness of how do I show up in the room, how do I show up with others, what does it look like for me to be impactful, and the awareness as they're on a team. And so he will go into that. He's done it with T2. He's done it in a few other settings, and it's really great. So we're really excited about that.
Yeah. And then as we look ahead for this next year and some other future work that we have, we are working on trying to expand the work of the Learning Advisory Board. So you can see up there who is on the Learning Advisory Board. And as we think about that group of people, we've really asked them to both be advisors and ambassadors in their support of learning and leadership. And so that those are folks that could be called on and can help also speak to what is the learning catalog and are aware of it. And so there's folks in maybe your division and different pieces that they're really helping with, and how we are beginning to think about the learning catalog for next year. And that is like a group of folks that are going to be helping think about that so that we can speak into that and offer that earlier to you all as supervisors. So we are really excited about that piece.
Great. Two things we'll be working on with that group and with camping services and really anyone that we can is expanding the onboarding tool, specifically for an onboarding tool for department heads that get hired and for camp managers that get hired. And so there's a lot of work there. There's a lot of behaviors, a lot of, from yesterday that I think we need to work on, and competencies, but to have specific onboarding for a department head and a camp manager. And as a part of that, we get asked a lot, I know Camping Services does, of hey, what's going on with the resource coaching program? And to kind of address that and kind of go back to the beginning with that program as well and go, what do we want? How do we want to help support and train every new department head and camp manager? And how do we do that? And so we're going to be working on that this year.
And as it relates to job competencies for camp staff roles, a part of what we are also inviting the Learning Advisory Board into, and we'll start really thinking about those job competencies and behaviors as it relates to all roles and staff in our organization. And so that will not be a simple one-year project. We will kind of start, and it will be phased to really be able to do that thoroughly, but we will begin that this year.
Yeah. I get asked a lot about commissioning for camp staff. It's a great question. For folks that don't know, the HR department and the Learning and Leadership department are now kind of under one umbrella. And those two groups are working hard on commissioning for all Young Life staff and kind of redefining that and looking at it just for an awareness level. Because there is a financial part to commissioning, there are IRS stipulations and laws that we need to follow. And so they are going through and actually revisiting every single job title. And as an example, there are actually field staff job titles they have removed from being able to be commissioned. And so we are in the process of looking at what camp staff job titles can be commissioned. We hope to launch that very soon. And I would imagine that we will continue to look at that and potentially add job titles as the mission is just defining what does it mean to be eligible for commissioning and kind of match this IRS stipulation. So.
Okay, that is all that we have for some new pieces. But before we get into Q&A, Dan's going to follow up just a little bit from yesterday.
Yeah. One, I just, again, want to say thank you. I know that took a lot of energy. It took a lot of energy for me. I was excited to get to Zorbas and eat some pizza and have a beer. So thanks for everything you put into it. I also want to acknowledge that we all approach those conversations differently. For some of us, there are people in this room, I'm not one of them, that could sit and do experiments for a long time and had a list of 20. For others, I want to recognize we didn't give you a lot of space. And so you might need a day, it might be a couple days from now, you might have your list of 20. All of that is okay. And so thanks for entering into it. Just appreciate. I would encourage you to continue to take time to process it and have conversations about it. And the thing I would say is I walked around when the groups were going, and I heard a lot of great experiments. We didn't all get to hear those experiments when it came time to share. And I know that we're all in a lot of different contexts. And I would say for me, I think Eric said it really well there's something during his talk where he said, like, staying where we are, staying the same is not an option. Change is ahead of us. And I know for me, we need every voice in this room to engage. And we need collaboration and that every voice in here is valuable. And so I would just encourage you as you go back, you don't even need to say the word experiment, but you could have a conversation with your team about, gosh, do you have any ideas about something we could try? Or other people in this room. If you can't think of something, I was even thinking about like different ways this room could collaborate with each other. Whether it's camping services in a camp or whatever. So I just want to encourage you in that way. We will follow up. If you haven't done an experiment, entered one in already, we will follow up with you. So just so you know that, I would love for you to put one in. If you need another day, that's okay. And we may follow up and go, hey, tell me more about this. Or would you we got a couple of the same. Would you consider, can you two talk? And let's kind of see if we can double the learning here. And then we will follow up and go, all right, here's a link to tell us what you learned. Should we scale this? Do you think everyone should do this? What would you do differently? Do you want to try it in your division? You're going to try it with your interns? What can we learn from this? We are going to follow up with that.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to talk about is just this, kind of to set up the rest of this afternoon. There's a lot of things we could spend time on. A lot of leadership topics. We're spending time on 2. I think originally we had a list of like 8 different things we could do. But part of the reason as we think about our conversation yesterday is, around healthy supervision is how does this room engage in that? And what are ways that we can have hard conversations around behaviors and our leadership and how to continue to impact our teams. And so we picked 2. One they're hard, they're heavy. How to lead a leadership team. Anyone that's done that knows, man, you can be in a season where you're thriving, you can be in a season where that is every day tough. And so to have that conversation together and to be in a room of people that get it and be able to have those conversations. And then leading across gender. We specifically from the survey, we heard about both of these, of how do we have a conversation and a training around what does it look like to lead across gender? What are the challenges? How do we continue to name them? These are the start of a conversation. It is our hope that you would be able to leave here and to continue to go, man, there's a couple things I want to try or learn more about, or I want to talk to some other people in the room about. And so that's our hope with the conversation this afternoon. And Marshall, who's leading the first one, and Allison and Matt, who are leading the second one, are kind of humbly going in like, hey, they know we're not solving this, right? Like, yes, they do know that. But I do think our ability to have hard conversations together to go, hey, this is really hard. And if this were to change, it would really impact our staff. And it would really help people connect and feel good about why they do what they do. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we do have some time for some Q&A. If you all have any questions for us on anything for this year, next year, something else you're wondering about of what's coming, or have we thought about it, we would welcome questions.
With the Learning Catalog signups, did you have a goal number of signups?
That's a great question. I think we didn't have a stated one out loud. I was hoping probably for like 30%, and for our first go around, we're not quite there. But I think in general, from like actually living it out and being on some calls and getting feedback and talking to staff, it's been such a gift, and I still feel like there's huge room to celebrate just getting to be with folks as we dove into Why the Gospel, or on the first silent retreat, so 30% was mine.
That's a good question. Another thing I would say with that is, some of the magic in there, and we experienced this with PACE calls, when they were really going back in the day, is just kind of this circle of development. What we know is we can't teach all these things. And there's people in this room, there's department heads that we really would be better at teaching them and more effective. And so I think that's the other piece in the Learning Catalog, is how do we continue to bring more people into the facilitating part of it.
One thing that I'm curious about with regard to the Learning Catalog and the offerings there is, not to introduce yet another system, but is there a plan to have a record of folks' participation?
Yes, there is. And I think it's really important. I think eventually to be able to, have a place, a dashboard where you can look and see all the trainings people have taken, the events they've gone to, even things like coming here and doing work crew, because you end up, every once in a while you have that staff person they'll say something like, well, I've never been to, I've only been to these 2 camps. And you're like, wait, you've been on staff for 15 years. How does that happen? But it just happens. And so, yeah, I will say that is a conversation missionally, and it's, there's a system, there's some complication in there. And so, some of the, we want to align missionally with what systems are being used. Sometimes, like the onboarding tool, there will probably be a missional onboarding tool eventually, but we can move a little quicker. And so we kind of want to be aligned, but also move quick. And so I say that, so we may need to figure out kind of something in the interim while the mission is figuring out where do we kind of track and keep all of this. But it's definitely a conversation that's happening, in leadership.
I would say that the YL Connect right now, like the fact that people registered in Web Connects, like Emily and Haley have been super helpful with me of like, we will be able to see year over year how many people have signed up for things. And so that, like being in YL Connect, there's a lot that we'll be able to build out in the future as there's a lot more that goes into making sure we have someone's camp and individual people and their contacts. But that goal right now does set us up to be able to capture it for the future, and where you can go and see someone. And if you click on one of those opportunities, you can see everyone else who has signed up for it. And it is our way of, hey, we're on the way until the mission has something else that they might want to move us to. Emily, were you going to say anything else on it?
I was going to say, Megan, maybe, or for everyone for reference, while we've been waiting, or the mission has been determining what's the best course, the field is also using Wild Connect to
Yeah.
track this. So I would say we are always blessed, especially in this place. When Haley and I saw that people were registering through Web Connect, we sent Jordan a text and we're like, hey, we have some ideas
God bless.
The next year, we're hoping that we could, with somebody telling us what to do, we could have more information about the people that register, like what department they're in, how long have they been on staff, and then you could do analysis of like, we have this women work in leadership, and last year, all the women who took it were less than 4 years on staff. Like all of those things, and then they can build it. This year we were a little behind the 8 ball, but it would be able to pull the same sort of information as how we say, we're like, oh, a camper has been to Rockbridge for Wildlife and then Lake Champion for senior high. We're building in the same way, but instead of camps, it's which learning and leadership event they register for. Does that, that's great, makes
Yeah.
sense? Thank you.
Yeah. Other questions? Okay. Well, we would invite you to continue to ask us questions. Oh,
Katie Guthrie.
Two flags pointing up as a board member here. One, the spiritual formation, the Office of Spiritual Formation has been training people across the country to be able to help facilitate prayer practices, days of solitude, retreats, and so there are people, this is a great opportunity for partnership across like every division and almost to the regional level now. There are people who you could reach out to say, hey, could you lead a prayer practice at my staff meeting? And how cool would that be? Or like Cammie Dill has changed the way that she does schedule like 18 meetings in the morning with the team and how they pause together. So there's the Office of Spiritual Formation. I'm going to reach out to them and ask for a list of those things and help get that to our group, just so you know like, who's in your backyard that can partner with the spiritual formation opportunities. And then with case calls, there have been, there's multiple. So we've done one-time management. It was awesome. It was so cool to watch, especially a lot of the younger staff. The light bulb came on some very tangible how to prioritize what's my work I need to be doing right now. And so there's 2 more of those coming, and I just want to make a point. Like, that's not done. These are people who we've curated it. Jordan and I worked to take what the feedback was and like bake it into the content. So.
Yeah, there's still room to sign up. People can sign up right now. Yeah.
And to your point, Katie, we have people within the camping department that have been through the spiritual formation cadre as well. So it could be someone from the field, but it can also, we've had 3 people go through that that are a wonderful resource. So, yeah. And just want to remind people and reiterate, Jordan and I are always here as a resource and to help. So if there's issues, questions, however we can help, development opportunities, please don't hesitate to reach out. So.
Great. Well, let's take 4 minutes. You can get something to drink, and then we're going to be back in our seats starting right at